as the opening of our visiting lecture will commence shortly, and please remember to put your microphone in muted mode. Before we start, let's watch informational video of Universitas Terbuka.
Opening your eyes to the importance of education. For the younger generation, as they have the same rights to continue their education to a higher level. Growing in knowledge, enhancing good character, and to have a brighter future. Universitas Terbuka is established to make the dreams of young men and women from all corners of the country come true through the distance higher education system to meet the ever-changing demands of industrial and technological development in the 21st century.
Dengan diresmikannya Universitas Terbuka.
Universitas Terbuka is a pioneer of world-quality distance higher education, which is supported by professional lecturers who are experienced in their own field of expertise. Universitas Terbuka has also made numerous innovations to solve current educational challenges by applying a digital learning ecosystem to build capable and quality future leaders.
Hampir 4 dasawarsa UT mengabdi untuk bangsa. Universitas Terbuka mewujudkan pendidikan tinggi untuk semua.
With the long experience of carrying out our mission of providing equal access to higher education for everyone in Indonesia, Universitas Terbuka has proven to be a trusted public higher education institution. Our graduates have successfully applied their knowledge into their chosen career fields as either professionals or entrepreneurs. As of 2022, UT has a student body of just over 350,000. As a cyber university who teaches and applies the latest technology, Universitas Terbuka has 4 faculties, including the Faculty of Economics, the Faculty of Law, Social and Political Sciences, the Faculty of Science and Technology, and the Faculty of Education and Teacher Training. As a successful distance higher education institution, UT has received various awards and achievements. For instance, the rector of Universitas Terbuka, Professor Ojat Darajat, was elected by acclamation as the president of Asian Association of Open Universities for the period of 2020 to 2022. Time and time again, UT continues to make important innovations by using the most advanced communication technology and information available in each of its programs. Through the implementation of lifelong learning, UT also provides certificate programs and tuition-free programs such as open educational resources, as well as free lectures to be accessed by everyone. Limitation is not a hindrance for people to continue their education to a higher level, because education is a fundamental human right for everyone that can be accessed easily. This is Universitas Terbuka, always thinking forward, always open to diversity.
Pendidikan tinggi bagi semua anak negeri.
Universitas Terbuka menjangkau yang tidak terjangkau.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Her Excellency Dr. Subekti Nurmawati, M.Si, as Dean of Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Terbuka. Honorable Dr. Erika, SPI, M.D, as a Vice Dean for Academic Affairs at the Faculty of Science and Technology. Dr. Anda Inggit Winarni M.Si as Vice Dean for Finance, Resources, and General Affairs at the Faculty of Science and Technology. Dr. Dewi Julia Ratnaningsi SSI M.Si as Vice Dean for Students, Learning Services, and Cooperation Affairs at the Faculty of Science and Technology. Heads of Study Programs at the Faculty of Science and Technology, Erika, Pradana, Putri, St. M.Sc as Moderator. I also would like to welcome our respectable speaker, Dr. Engineer Jiří Patoka, Ph.D., DIS, Associate Professor, Czech University of Life Science, Praha, and last but not least, to all respectable participants who have attended this event. Welcome to the visiting lecture, Ornamental Aquaculture in Indonesia, which held by Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Terbuka. Please give applause to us. Let me introduce my own self first. My name is Safira. It's such an awesome and precious chance for me to be your master ceremony this morning. We also would like to thank everyone here for taking time to attend our remarkable visiting lecture session. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let us be thankful to the Almighty God that we can gather here today on Thursday, July 27th, 2023, because over the next few hours, we will have such a big opportunities to discuss and share knowledges and also insights about ornamental aquaculture in Indonesia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on this special day, allow me to read several sequences of our agendas as follows. First, opening ceremony started by singing the national anthem of Indonesia. The next sessions is opening remarks that will be spoken by Dean of Faculty of Science and Technology Universitas Terbuka, Dr. Subekti Nurmawati, M.Si. Then we will continue with the visiting lecture presentation from Dr. Engineer Jiří Patoka, Ph.D. DIS, then followed by question and answer discussion. In this section will be moderated by Mrs. Erika Pradana Putri, St. M.Sc, and it will end with this closing ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, as we start our opening ceremony, we will sing the national anthem of Indonesia. We would like to request you to stand and remind seated participants who join us using Zoom media during the song. Please stand up. Thank you. You can have your seat again. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start off our visiting lecture, let's to pray together according to our respective religious and beliefs. Please start praying. Okay, break time is over. Next, let us continue to hear the opening remarks from Dean of Faculty of Science and Technology, Dr. Subekti Nurmawati, M.Si. Please welcome Dr. Subekti Nurmawati, M.Si. Please give applause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Best wishes to all of us. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. On this very fine day and in good health, we are able to gather in this forum. And it is our privilege that we can join in today's hybrid meeting. Our Honorable Jiří Patoka, Ph.D., Associate Professor at the Department of Zoology and Fisheries, Faculty of Agrobiology, Food and Natural Resources, Czech University of Life Sciences, Praha. Our extraordinary speaker, welcome to Universitas Terbuka, and your wife, welcome to Universitas Terbuka. Our Honorable Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, Ibu Erika, Vice Dean for Finance, Resources, and General Affairs, Ibu Inggit, and Vice Dean for Students, Learning Services, and Collaboration, Ibu Dewi Julia, all Head of Study Program in Faculty of Science and Technology, our distinguished guest, Mr. Surya Genta Akmal, Ph.D. from IPB, a member of the Indonesian Crayfish Research Group, ICRG. Lecturers and students of the Faculty of Science and Technology Universitas Terbuka, and all participants who present in this forum. Firstly, praise is to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because of His permission, today we are all able to attend the visiting lecturer from our extraordinary speaker, Jiří Patoka, Ph.D. as an astacologist or an expert in crayfish with the topic Ornamental Aquaculture in Indonesia. Mr. Jiří Patoka was previously invited virtually as a guest speaker in webinar at FST-UT last year. This event is organized by the Agribusiness Study Programs in collaboration with other study programs in the Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Terbuka. Dear visiting lecturer participants, based on the data from the National Research and Innovation Agency Indonesia, Indonesia is the country with the second highest terrestrial biodiversity in the world. However, when it is combined with marine biodiversity, Indonesia is the worst. Talk about Indonesian ornamental aquaculture. Indonesia as a maritime country has high crustacean resources. These resources also support the current Indonesian fishery export. The Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries reported that in 2020 to 2024, around 45% of the total value of Indonesian fishery export come from crustacean. Even around 2 million people on farm fisheries workers work in their business of catching and cultivating crustaceans. The crustacean does not only come from seawater, but also from freshwater, including some species of freshwater crayfish. The crustaceans, aquaculture, and capture business activities are able to create very wide multiplier effects. The most common threat facing species, among others, result from human activities, especially in massive exploitation, which will cause them to be endangered or extinct species. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully after attending this visiting lecture, it can inspire us to continue working to develop research that can be useful for the sustainability of our biodiversity and wider community. We express our gratitude to Mr. Jiří Patoka for his time and sharing. I would like to thank the Agribusiness Study Program and other study programs for continuing this good activity with Czech University. We hope there will be continued collaboration and research and publication, not only for lecturers, but also for our students. Finally, we would like to thank all parties that we have not mentioned one by one, who has helped organize today's visiting lecturer. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Numa, for the warm opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly take a nice seat as our visiting lecturer will commence shortly, and please remember to put your microphone in muted mode. In a few moments, we will listen to today's visiting lecture with the theme of Ornamental Aquaculture in Indonesia. This visiting lecture will be presented by our special speaker, Dr. Engineer Jiří Patoka, Ph.D. DIS, and also moderated by Erika, Pradana, Putri, St. M.Sc. For this section, I would like to give attention to all the participants that joining us using Zoom media for these following matters. First, please turn off your microphone during this presentation. If you have any question, please write it down to the Q&A section with format your name _ affiliation and then your question. Or if you would like to ask directly, you can use the raise hand features. It is expected that all participants to fill the attendance form with the link that will be shared on the chat box at the end of the presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Mrs. Erika and Mr. Jiří Patoka come to the front to guide us through an insightful lecture. For additional information that Mrs. Erika is one of the lecturers in Faculty of Science and Technology Universitas Terbuka. Mrs. Erika, if you may guide this visiting lecture, and the stage is yours now.
Thank you, Safira, for your warm welcome. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Erika Pradana Putri. Welcome to today's visiting lecture on ornamental aquaculture in Indonesia. And I'll be your moderator for this informative session. Before we begin, I would like to express our gratitude to Fakulty of Science and Technology Universitas Terbuka for providing us with this opportunity to learn more about ornamental aquaculture, especially in Indonesia. For those of you who may not be familiar, ornamental aquaculture is popular in Indonesia. And in fact, Indonesia is one of the leaders in ornamental aquaculture. Today, we have the honor of having a distinguished expert in the field to share his knowledge with us, Dr. Jiří Patoka, Ph.D. DIS. Please give warm welcome for Dr. Jiří. Okay, before Dr. Jiří give, okay, you can join us here. I will read the curriculum vitae. Dr. Jiří Patoka is an associate professor at the Department of Zoology and Fisheries at the Czech University of Life Science Prague. He teaches courses in ornamental fish culture and ornamental fish cultivation production. His primary interests lie in breeding, biology, ethology, and taxonomy of freshwater crustaceans. He has officially described several coral shrimp species. In general, his expertise also covers biological invasion, particularly invasive species related to international pet trade. Moreover, He actively promotes his research finding and has published 4 keeper guides and methodologies for maintaining coral shrimp in aquarium, where he acts as the lead author. Additionally, he has established the Czech nomenclature for infraorder Astacida. So far, he has published more than 76 scientific papers focusing on various aspects of the field. And in 2009 and in 2015, beneficial collaboration with 8 universities in Indonesia began until present, but Universitas Terbuka not yet include to 8 universities in 2015, yeah, Dr. Jiří. So we just have our collaboration in 2019, is that right? And this is your second time to Universitas Terbuka. Okay. And Dr. Jiří also a member of the Czech Limnological Society, the Crustacean Society, the Indonesian Crayfish Research Group, and the Sulawesi Keeper NGO based on Sulawesi. Please join me in welcoming our guest lecturer, Dr. Jiří Patoka, BIS, and please give a warm welcome once again to welcome Dr. Jiří. Thank you very much, Dr. Jiří, for gracing us with your presence today. We are truly excited to learn from your extensive knowledge and experience in ornamental aquaculture in Indonesia. And without further ado, I invite you to commence your insightful lecture.
Terima kasih. Selamat pagi.
The committee, can you share the presentation also in Zoom so Dr. Jiří can see? Okay.
Thank you very much for this opportunity for me to present my topic in UT. And this is my second visit of this university, and I'm really satisfied with our cooperation. I'm guest lecturer also here, and this is a perfect platform how to communicate with Indonesian academics and also students, because here are plenty of students in UT, and this is honor for me to introduce my topics here. And also I will talk about our future plans and possible cooperation. So my topic for today is ornamental aquaculture in Indonesia. So this is map of Indonesia. You can see that there are 3 biodiversity hotspots, and is it working? Yeah. So more than 17,000 islands and a huge population, close to 300 million of people, and also 3 biodiversity hotspots. Sundaland, Wallacea. Yeah. Okay, better. And also Sahul. Yeah. This biodiversity richness is awesome. Indonesia is a very important region in this case, because many of endemic species are here, and some of them are also used for ornamental trade. Ornamental aquaculture. About the international role of Indonesia in ornamental aquaculture and international pet trade, the main hotspot for ornamental aquaculture and trade is Jakarta, and also Jogja, and also Surabaya in Java. The international pet trade support other countries which are importers. Indonesia is one of the top suppliers on the planet. These animals and also aquatic plants are transported over the globe to America, to Europe, also to Japan, And it is not only about marine, but also freshwater species. What was a little bit surprising for me when I visited Indonesia for first time in 2017, the domestic pet trade, domestic aquaculture is also well developed and well established. Jogja and Surabaya, together with Jakarta, provided huge numbers of aquatic animals for Indonesian people who are focused on domestic keeping of these animals for ornamental purpose. Yes, domestic pet trade. These animals are divided to two groups, marine and freshwater. In case of marine animals, more than 90% are captured in the field. Just only a few of them are cultured, artificially produced in some aquaculture facilities. On the other hand, freshwater animals, most of them are cultured. Just only 10% are captured in the field. The rest is cultured. But not only native species, also some non-native species, for example, from South America, are cultured in Indonesia. Here you can see two pictures, an example of aquaculture production in net cages in some danau or situ, and also toko ikan hias used on the pet trade with ornamental fishes and other aquatic biota. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm going back. So sorry for this delay. Yes, hopefully working. In case of marine ornamental aquaculture, Indonesia together with Philippines, both are leaders on global market. These two countries are the main suppliers of marine biota for ornamental fish keeping. And not only fish keeping, also some invertebrates are kept in aquaria. Most of these animals are from coral reefs, and just only a few of them are pelagic. Most of them are from coral reefs. In case of freshwater animals, you can see the figure focused on the global trade with freshwater ornamental animals. As you can see, the leader here is from Singapore, and Indonesia is one of the main suppliers of these animals as well. For comparison, the green field is from my country, Republic Czech, but many of these animals included in this figure originated also from Indonesia and are imported to the Czech Republic and subsequently re-exported abroad to some other European countries. Therefore, the connection of our countries, Indonesia and the Czech Republic, is strong, and I'm focused on monitoring of this trade line, and I guess that we can maybe in future prepare some projects focusing on this aspect. Yeah, but there are not only positive aspects, also some negative aspects have to be highlighted. There are some related risks. At first, species, and we can say also the whole ecosystems, are endangered by human activities, including ornamental aquaculture. It is not true only for Indonesia. It is true for all countries on the planet. And in Indonesia, we can see some negative consequences related to ornamental aquaculture significantly, obviously, because Indonesia has a huge production of these animals. Yeah, fishery and aquaculture is one of the main main vectors of invasive species, and the habitats can be, and ecosystem in whole can be easily damaged by intensive pressure, intensive capture, and so on. I would like to focus on invasive species on one side, and also the endangered species, mostly endemics of Indonesian rivers and lakes. Here are so many endemic species with a very limited native range, and these species can be really easily damaged, and their population can rapidly decline when some invasive species is introduced. And many of these invasive species are unfortunately used for ornamental aquaculture, and therefore for culture in Indonesian lakes and rivers. I will show you our outputs focused on this topic later in this speech. This is a stream in campus of UT. You can see some typical shape of stream, which is not so well managed for surviving of local native biota. It is regulated by concrete, the banks are concrete, and there is also a garbage in the water. For the first side, we can say that some streams in Indonesia are not in good condition for native biota. Here is another picture from Botanical Garden in Bogor. The river is awesome, but also unfortunately full of garbage. And this is picture from Lombok. You can see one of invasive aquatic plants. This is water hyacinth, which is native to South America and currently widespread in the tropics over the planet. And this plant is used for ornamental aquaculture because the flower is very nice and decorative, but also very risky for native. It can easily dominate in the freshwater body, and all other freshwater plants will be destroyed by this one. So this is an example of very successful invasive species. So native biota is in risk due to some activities related to ornamental aquaculture. Therefore, we decided to start a cooperation with Indonesian universities and also other institutions like Zoological Museum in Bogor to try to improve the situation and help to protect the awesome Indonesian biota. And also, not to say just stop to do something and so on, but also to find some smart solution for local people, for local communities, because this is very important. I will talk about this also later in this presentation. And now I would like to focus on switch your attention to our findings, our scientific work, plenty of scientific papers well produced, published, and also in cooperation with UT, and namely with Bu Ernik Juliana. And I would like to show you our findings. First, about indigenous crayfish, Lobster airtawar. Indigenous crayfish in Indonesia are native just in Papua. Here, currently not West Papua, but Southwest Papua, other provinces, the Indonesian New Guinea. There are the native crayfish. Only here. And next. And indigenous crayfish are usually endemics of very restricted area, just some small lake or small stream like creek. And there are plenty of formerly undescribed and some unknown species, which are used for ornamental aquaculture as well, because many of these animals are captured in the field, transported to Sorong, and from Sorong to Jakarta, and from Jakarta abroad. in huge quantities. And no one knows about the scientific name, about the distribution of the crayfish, about the trends of their population, because the impact can be devastating on them. But unfortunately, we have no information about these species in detail. Why? Because the type locality is mostly unknown, and the local collectors now are not able to communicate with us, and their willingness for communication is also very low. Therefore, we can see some new species of lobster airtawar in the pet trade, but we have no possibility how to formally describe the new species, and it is a hard job. But we can see plenty of indigenous crayfish in Papua. In some cases, we were successful and found the type locality. Here are some examples of new species of Cherax pulcher, Cherax gerardi, Cherax snowden, and junior synonym Cherax subterigneus, and also cave crayfish Cherax achriontis. The first three species are used for ornamental keeping, ornamental trade. The last one is very rare, and it is in the current times not used for pet trade. But I would like to show you why this species is so important, because this is true troglodytic crayfish, true cave species of crayfish. This is the only one out of North America. The other cave crayfish are just in North America, 45 species. And this is the first one which was discovered on the southern hemisphere. It is not related to North American crayfish, and this is extraordinary species. And we found it close to the Balian Valley, close to Wamena city in 2017. And you can see the pictures of the cave, which is flooded, and it is a specific habitat for this species. It was so surprising finding for us and for global scientists as well, because it was not expected that some cave crayfish can be native elsewhere out of North America. North America is hotspot for crayfish, and also some cave crayfish are there. So this one is the first here, and I'm really satisfied with this finding because yeah, and here you can see the video of holotype, some short video from the cave. You can see that it is not pigmented and with very low antennas, because this crayfish lives in total dark. So it's typical troglodytic animal. And the type material is deposited in Zoology Museum in Bogor under supervision of the curator, Dr. Daisy Bobor. Next. For your information, here is a map of Cherax crayfish, which are native to New Guinea and also to Australia, with some specific places indicated. The figure is part of one of our papers. What is important for here, you can see that many places in Papua are white, but it is likely that some native crayfish are there as well. But it is hard to obtain scientific permits and to prepare some field trip to Papua, and therefore our knowledge about native crayfish there is currently poor. There are many gaps and many white places. But my estimation and expectation for future is that the crayfish are also there, because there are many water bodies, and there is no reason why crayfish will occupy just some selected lakes or streams. The most probably these streams are and freshwater bodies have never been surveyed in this regard, and we can expect that there are plenty of crayfish. The estimated total number in New Guinea, and as the whole island, is about 100 species. This is so much. We can call it some enigmatic biodiversity hotspot in this regard. In comparison with Australia, there are 140 species of freshwater crayfish. So this is very similar. And some of them are used for ornamental aquaculture, but plenty of them are still unknown. Why this is important? Because when we can say this is some hotspot for crayfish biodiversity, it will be the third. First is North America, second Australia, and third can be New Guinea. So it is like heritage for Indonesia. This is very, very important island from this perspective. And the cave crayfish, Cherax acherontes, is so promising in this regard because there are not only epigeic freshwater bodies which can be used for the native crayfish there, but also we can expect more cave crayfish in subterranean. Therefore, the total number can be maybe higher than 100, but who knows? Some field trips are required in this case in future. But this area is so promising. But there are not only indigenous crayfish, also some non-native, non-indigenous, and some of them can be invasive. Here you can see the red claw or Australian red claw. It's Cherax quadricarinatus. This species was introduced for first time from Australia to Surabaya, and from Surabaya it was distributed over the Indonesian territory as a whole. It is native also to South Papua, but the population in the rest of Indonesia was imported from Australia, not from Papua. Therefore, we can say this is non-native species for the rest of Indonesia. The first record was done in 2015 and published 2016 together with Dr. Jon Wittner from IPB. The crayfish was found in 2 lakes close to the city of Bogor, in Chilala and Lido lakes, and the population was considered to be established. So, I mean, surviving there, reproducing and spreading in the vicinity. Next. After 2 years, we found this crayfish to be recorded from many localities over the Indonesian territory. You can see that the population is in increase and rapidly, because this crayfish is very popular in local people for ornamental keeping as ornamental animal, also for human consumption, and in some cases it is used also for anglers as live crayfish, live fish bait. Next. Especially in Java, we focused on the freshwater bodies and monitoring of this animal in artificial ponds, but also in Danau, in situ, and some streams. And we found it to be widespread over the island. So we can say this species is currently widespread probably in the whole territory of Indonesia, even if the focused monitoring in other islands is still lacking. Just some anecdotal records are known, but I guess that when we will focus on Sumatra and I don't know, Kalimantan and so on, we will find the crayfish to be there. Some established populations are expected, and we can say this crayfish is currently everywhere in Indonesia. Next. Here are some examples of culture of Cherax quadricarinatus in several islands. The first picture is from Lombok. There is some outdoor culture. It was surprising for me that Cherax quadricarinatus is here, because the first node of the crayfish from some Indonesian colleagues was that it is some North American crayfish. There was total misunderstanding, mis-ID of the species, and we found it to be Charax quadricarinatus. In 2009, the prices of this crayfish in Lombok declined, and therefore many farmers there decided to this culture to be not profitable and released the crayfish in the vicinity. Many of them survived out of the farm and reproduced and spread over the island. Currently, the crayfish is not cultured, but is over the island of Lombok, and it can penetrate some fish ponds by burrowing activity, and it is considered to be like enemy of fish farmers. So this is the negative consequence of poor management of the species, because it was released in the wild. So bad decision. Next picture is from Purwokerto. Pardon, back. This picture is from Purwokerto or vicinity of Purwokerto, where is some outdoor farm also focused on Charax quadricarinatus, and these crayfish are distributed in the area and also in Jogja. This one is also from Purwokerto, and it is some indoor farm. No, pardon, not from Purwokerto. It is from Magelang. Yeah, and it is indoor farm. And the last one is from Keman Lake in West Java. It is close to city of Bogor, and you can see the net cages used for culture of Charax quadricarinatus. But Charax quadricarinatus, it is a crayfish. It can climb out of the cage easily and quickly, and therefore currently we can find the established population in the whole lake, not only in the cages. Next. But Charax quadricarinatus is not the worst, and it can be accepted for Indonesia because there are no non-native pathogens related to Charax quadricarinatus. On the other hand, we found also North American crayfish here, and North American crayfish is really bad news for Indonesian freshwater biota. This one is called Procambarus clarki, red swamp crayfish. Next. We found it for the first time in 2018 in a small village close to the city of Bogor. The name of the village is Pasir Angin. The how to say, author of these samplings is Genta over here, and we found this population to be established. Next video. This is an example of some catch from the ponds focused on production of this crayfish. It is produced in huge quantities, as you can see, and this crayfish is very popular over the planet for human consumption, but not in Indonesia. Here it is kept just as ornamental animal. From this pond system, the crayfish is distributed to some toko ikan hias, and also there are most probably more than one farm. Next. What is the bad for Indonesia? We found pathogen of crayfish plague. Pathogen of crayfish plague is not lethal for North American crayfish. North American crayfish are vectors of this pathogen, but the rest of crayfish outside the North America are sensitive, and not only crayfish, also some crabs and shrimps. We found two other decapods in the locality, namely Paratelphusa convexa, the native crab, and also non-native shrimp Macrobranchium lanchesteri. Both are infected. The concentration of the pathogen is not so high. Therefore, it is impossible currently to say if these species are also sensitive to the pathogen and mortality will follow, or if they are resistant and can serve as a vector of the pathogen to other localities. Both ends of this story are bad. So I have some experience from Europe where pathogen of crayfish plague was very destructive for native crayfish. Not all, but many of our populations were completely lost due to spreading of this pathogen, which was introduced 100 years ago together with other North American crayfish. The similar situation can follow in ongoing years in Indonesia. The pathogen is here. This is the first time in the tropics, and no one knows the consequences. How the pathogen will survive, how it will be spread in the vicinity, and so on. The crayfish can walk terrestrially. Due 2 nights, it can walk 4 kilometers. So it is easy to penetrate some new localities. And also, for example, water birds can transport the pathogen when the bird like bebek is in the water, so the pathogen can be transported by the bird to vicinity, to other locality on legs and feather and so on. Also, fishermen can transport the pathogen on boots, nets, and some equipment easily. Therefore, this is alarming for Indonesia, because the aquaculture of decapod crustaceans can be damaged, strongly impacted and negatively impacted by the pathogen. I hope that we can prepare some project in near future, to monitoring of this pathogen, because this can be so negative, not only for biota, but also for local communities and farmers. About the crab, Paratelphusa convexa was found also, it is native to Java, but it was found also in Sumatra, in close to Payakumbuh, in West Sumatra, also by Genta and his father, and the paper was recently accepted for publication. This population is enemy for local farmers, because these crabs can damage the paddy fields and rice plants and the production of paddy. No one knows if this crayfish is also infected by crayfish plague or not, but it is possible. As we found in Pasir Angin, the pathogen can be transported by this crab. So the focused survey of this population is required, because if yes, so the crayfish plague can be found in another island of Indonesia. This is very important. Try to find some way, some solution how to prevent introduction of crayfish plague to other localities. Next one. Yeah. Next. And crayfish are exploited in Indonesia for human consumption, as I said before. This is some example from Papua, where Dani people catch the local crayfish for human consumption by angling. And this is the subjected species is Charax monticola, native crayfish, which is widespread in Balayan River. Also as live fish bait. This is also our paper, which was accepted for publication recently. And there are some examples of behavior of anglers who used some various types of baits for angling as fish bait, and crayfish. This one, Charax quadricarinatus, is used by anglers as live fish bait. Why it is important? Because many anglers can release the crayfish in the stream when they go home, or some crayfish can escape, and therefore this pathway for introduction can be very important also for future. Next. And pet trade, I mean ornamental aquaculture. You can see the figure from European perspective. The dark field here is for Indonesia. Indonesia is the main supplier of ornamental crayfish over the planet, mainly focused on native crayfish from Papua of genus Herax, but not only. Also, North American crayfish are produced in huge quantities and can be supplied in huge quantities to other countries, and also many of them are traded locally. Unfortunately, there are many misidentification of the species. I was very surprised that in Jakarta, in Dunia Air Tawar, the public aquarium facility, we found this crayfish, this North American crayfish, to be showed in some aquarium, but the label on the aquarium was that the crayfish is from Papua. It was completely wrong. It's crayfish from North America, and it is some public institution which has to educate the general public. But this was bad information. Therefore, we are also would like to focus on the education of general public. We would like to communicate in Bahasa with local people to improve their knowledge about this problem. And also you can see some package of ornamental crayfish. This way the crayfish are transported in huge quantities, for example, from Jakarta to Prague. After 2 days, the shipment will arrive, and the mortality is very low. Many of these crayfish survive the transportation. Next. How about overharvesting? Because there are some species which are of very limited native range, and their numbers in the wild are not so high. Many of these species have never been under some pressure from human activities, because especially in Papua, many of these species are not consumed. So the situation is now changing, because the high pressure can be done on can be done and no one knows about the current trend in populations of these crayfish. It can be declining, but who knows? We have no data about the current status, and it has to be surveyed in future intensively. Next. The first step was monitoring of trade routes of these crayfish in Java. The paper was published with Bu Ernik as the first author, and we found many pathways how the ornamental crayfish are transported over the island of Java. There are many local hotspots for offering and selling these crayfish. So this is the first evidence how the ornamental crayfish keeping and ornamental aquaculture is well established in Indonesia, because the general knowledge of some global scientific community is that Indonesia is supplier, and most of these animals are exported abroad, but that's not true. Here is the local trade well established, well developed, and many of these animals are not transported out of Indonesia. Many of them are used here. You can see the list of species, but it is, I guess, it is not complete, because many of them were probably not recorded, and we can say that the list will be similar as in Europe and North America, and there will be about 30 species, I guess. Next. Also, some prediction of consequences when some popular ornamental crayfish will be introduced to Papua was prepared and published together with IPB and UT. Here you can see climate matching analysis. Climate matching analysis works with available climatic data and can compare the data from the native range of some species and data from evaluated region. In this case, island of New Guinea, including Indonesian part of the island. For each species, like Procambarus clarki, here was prepared the map. The red areas indicate the region of which are suitable for crayfish to survive, reproduce, and spread when the crayfish is introduced there. We selected these 5 species as the most popular in ornamental trade. Not all of them were recorded from Indonesia, but some of them are traded as ornamentals in Europe, and it is declared that the origin of the crayfish is Indonesia. So I guess that there are some farms, maybe in the vicinity of Jogja or elsewhere, where these crayfish are produced. This is very important because some of them are also vectors of crayfish plague pathogen. You can see on the map that the worst is Procambarus clarki. Bad news, because this crayfish is in Indonesia currently. Also, the others can be found in New Guinea when introduced there, and Cambarus patsquarensis and Procambarus virginalis and also Procambarus alani, all of them are of North American origin, and all of them are risky as vectors of crayfish plague. The last one, Charax destructor, is native to Australia. It is sensitive to crayfish plague, so not so risky. On the other hand, it is very strong and robust and can compete to native species as aggressive animal as well. This is a preliminary study, some prediction for future what can follow when non-native crayfish will be introduced to Papua. You can see that New Guinean crayfish are in risk, and we have to do our best to prevent this introduction, because not only the species but also the pathogen can be introduced there. And when yes, the rapid decline of native species can follow rapidly. So it is very important to say to local communities where are the risks and why this is not the best solution to introduce the crayfish there. Next. Now switch to ikan hias. Next. We have also some records of non-native species in Indonesia. Here is example of ikan sapu-sapu, which is sailfin catfish from South America. We identified 2 species, Pterygoplectis disjunctivus and Pterygoplectis pardalis, to be established in some localities in here in Java, in Lombok, and also in Sulawesi. Not only these 2 species, but also their hybrids were found. This crayfish, not crayfish, catfish can dominate in the locality. It is able to reproduce quickly with the parental care, and the survival of offspring is high. So when the catfish is introduced somewhere, the trend is increasing, and there are some negative consequences related to local fishermen as well, because this catfish is not easily consumed and not popular for human consumption, and it has sharp fins which can damage the fishing nets, and in some cases it can be used just for feeding of some animals, not for human consumption. We have just anecdotal records of human consumption of this catfish. It was published in this paper. Another example of ornamental fish in Indonesia, which is non-native and can be invasive for future, is this iconic animal, Arapaima magigas. We can call it also peraruku, as is its native name from South America. This is the largest bony fish on the planet, up to 3 meters in the total body length. So this is a huge predator. We found it in next in some localities close to Surabaya in Brantas River, and on the figure here you can see some female with eggs. So it is ready for production, even if we have no evidence of the reproduction. It is expected to reproduce here. Therefore, the population can be considered to be established, and the predator of this size can be very risky for native biota for sure. On the figure here, you can see some Clarias catfish, which was sprayed by Arapaima, and Arapaima is used by local fishermen usually for human consumption because it is tasty, and why not? But when the population will spread over the Indonesian territory, we found many habitats indicated by red color on the map to be suitable for this species. So we can expect that Arapaima can spread over Indonesia when there will be no management against. And it can be also so risky as a big predator. Okay, next one. So this is the biodiversity conservation paradox. The biodiversity conservation paradox, the meaning is that the species is endangered in its native range, as Arapaima is. It is critically endangered in Brazil, overharvested, and the population is close to collapse and to be extinct in the wild quickly or in near future. But on the other hand, it can be invasive in Indonesia. And now, what is the best solution? Eradicate all of them, kill all of them in Indonesia, or to protect them because they are critically endangered in South America. It's hard to say what is the best solution. It is about discussion for future to find the best way how to manage this species. Maybe some specific population can be protected, but it has to be done. Some prevention is important to stop the spreading over the Indonesian territory, because in many cases this predatory fish, of course, can damage some local animals as well. So biodiversity conservation paradox, very interesting topic for the international community, not only for Indonesian people. Next one. Another ikan hias is palmas. Palmas is Polypterus senegalus, some fish from Africa, which was found to be also traded and established in the wild in Indonesia. In the figure here, you can see the trend line of the domestically produced, exported, imported animals. The blue line is export from Indonesia abroad. You can see that recently it is increasing. So I guess that the trend will continue, and it indicates that the production of palmas in Indonesia is increasing. In near future, we can expect the huge production of this animal here. And when palmas will be introduced or will escape from aquaculture facility to vicinity, so we can expect the establishment of these populations, and some negative consequences will follow. Next one. Here is a map of records from the wild in Sumatra, here in Lampung, right? Yeah. So the new population was found to be established. And we have also some anecdotal records from other islands in Indonesia, the orange dots on the map, which have to be verified in future. But I guess that we will find some other populations also in Jogja. There are 2 localities with palmas. This fish is produced and advertised for sale and kept as ornamental in Indonesia in 2 types. there is the wild phenotype and albino. Albino can be easily detected by predators, is more impacted by some stress and so on. So therefore, we expect that albino is not so risky in comparison with the wild phenotype. This is hypothesis only. We prepared a series of experiments to compare the behavior and invasion potential of these two morphotypes at my university, and just the data are analyzed. After that, we will see if the assumption that albino is not so risky in comparison with the wild phenotype is true or not. If yes, so the smart solution for Indonesian people is to switch the focus in culture from the wild phenotype to the albino. The albino is more expensive than the wild phenotype, so I guess this can be profitable for local people, and this can be profitable also for the biodiversity conservation. This is an example of the smart solution, as I mentioned before, because it is not against Indonesian people. It is in line with their motivation, and this can be profitable for both, for the conservation of the wildlife and also for local communities. So we can call it to be win-win situation. This is very important and feasible for future, because I guess that when we can communicate about this suggestion, this solution with Indonesian people and decision makers, politicians, and so on, this can be feasible for future and accepted by Indonesian farmers. When we will say to ban, stop the production, do not trade with this animal, so I guess this is not feasible. And many of local farmers and traders can go to the gray zone, to the black market, and the situation will be not improved, but worse. So this is my idea how to manage this species. Next one. Yeah, and it was also published. Another example is Potomotrigon motoro and also Potomotrigon jabuti. This freshwater stingray is native to South America. Next one. And it was found in Brantas River, also in the same locality as Arapaima gigas. This is freshwater stingray. So I mean that it has a sting. It is a venomous fish. And in South America, many local fishermen and some local people are negatively impacted, hurted by this fish. And also in Indonesia, we found the first example of stung of freshwater stingray to some local fishermen. It is not so dangerous. The fisherman survived, but it is painful. And he called it to be the similar as some injury from dagger. So it is not so friendly fish to local fishermen. And it is also a predator and can negatively impact the local biota, of course, especially some small fish and invertebrates like shrimps and crabs, but also can be risky for humans. The trade with this stingray was overlooked by global community. For example, in CITES association, in CITES declaration, where these stingrays are included, there was completely underestimated the trade volume in Indonesia. Just 124 individuals were recorded from last 5 years to be exported from Indonesia abroad. But we found completely different situation. The numbers are far, far higher. We found in total about 27,000 of individuals to be traded. So it is completely different situation. And Indonesia can be considered to be one of the most important producers of these fish in the world. So the leader, of course, but it has to be necessary to manage the culture. Next one. You can see the map, and there are some red areas indicated also the habitat suitable for Potamotrigon when it is introduced there. Currently, we found just one population in the Brantas River, but who knows? Maybe there are some others, and if not, this fish is valuable. It's expensive, and it can be therefore in focus of many local producers and farmers. So I guess that we can expect some other populations in future. Yeah, and also the Potamotrigon can be considered as a biodiversity conservation paradox as well as the Arapaima is, because many of these species from this genus from Brazil and South America in general are close to be extinct in the wild, because these are overharvested for ornamental aquaculture, for ornamental trade. And currently, the trend of populations in the wild is declining. So Indonesia is important country also in this reason. Production of Arapaima gigas, production of Potamotrigon stingrays is very important and can be used for the global conservation of these species. And Indonesia has to be highlighted in this regard, not overlooked. The culture here is profitable and well established. So just use it in the correct way, how to support the survival of the species and not to release them in the wild. It is important. And now about hitchhikers. What is it, hitchhiker? Hitchhiker is some associated, usually tiny animal, which is traded together with some ornamental species. There are plenty of these hitchhikers, which are transported also from Indonesia abroad in huge quantities, like some small insects, some planktonic animals, and so on. We made some preliminary study focus on the water hyacinth, and in the shipment transported from Indonesia to the Czech Republic, some randomly selected boxes were used for the survey. And you can see in the table that there were plenty of invertebrates transported via this way. Many of them survived because the transportation is just for 2 days from Jakarta to Prague. And more shipments are transported to Japan, to the United States, and so on, over the planet. Not only from Indonesia, of course. This is an example of some global trend. Hitchhikers are usually out of control because no one knows that these animals are in the box. So it is impossible to control them, to make some regulations or restrictions or ban or something. It is impossible. So this is also a very interesting topic for, I guess, many students maybe, because our knowledge about this topic is poor, just anecdotal findings like this one. But when some monitoring will be prepared and some students and as field workers will take some samples, it can be perfect for improving of our knowledge in future. Next one. Not only aquatic plants, but also with invertebrates, these hitchhikers were transported. This is also example of shipment from Indonesia. 2 shrimp species, Neocaridina denticulata or heteropora is the synonym, and also Caridina multidentata. These shrimps were transported as ornamentals, and we found also some tiny rotifers and protozoans and temnocephalidans to be transported together. Why it is important? Some tiny protozoan, who cares? But it is hard to expect if there are also some parasites or pathogens, and therefore it is important to highlight this pathway to be not some minor issue, but in the current situation, in the current globalization era, this can be also an important vector. Next. And also, this hitchhiker, it was found to be, it's temnocephalidan, found to be transported from Papua to the Czech Republic in this stage. Here are eggs. And after arrival to the Czech Republic, we found some progress and found adult temnocephalidan transported with the crayfish. Next one. Now switch from freshwater to marine. In the marine ornamental trade, the most iconic animal for Indonesia is the bangkai cardinalfish. The bangkai cardinalfish is an exception because it can be reproduced in indoor tanks. Many of marine animals do not reproduce in captivity, but this one, yes. We found many of vertebrates and invertebrates to be traded in Indonesia, hundreds and hundreds species, and from different regions, different provinces, different islands in Indonesia. Bali is very important in this regard, and many of them are coral reef animals. Next. In this figure, you can see that 2 of recorded species are endangered. Also, some vulnerable species are there, and also some species of data deficient. So some of them can be also endangered, maybe, who knows. So not all of them are how to say, some of them are in risk by the international pet trade, and it is important to say what is the trend in the wild, if the species has to be protected more intensively, or if there is a possibility to catch them in huge quantities without any negative consequences. The bangkai cardinalfish is native to the vicinity of Sulawesi, but its popularity is higher and higher when we discovered that it can reproduce in indoor tanks. So the popularity was rapidly increased, and but the supply from Indonesia was not so high, and the supply from the culture in captivity was also not so high. Therefore, this fish was distributed to other places as non-native directly in Indonesia. It is Indonesia native species, but not in all places where it is currently recorded. Next. And we found also some hitchhiking animals in the ornamental marine trade. These are partly also imported from Indonesia. You can see many types of snails, and also some echinodermats and annelids and so on. And these are in many cases not invasive, but sometimes some of them can be venomous to keepers, so high attention is also required. And in this case of harlequin shrimp, it is focused on consumption of sea stars only. And one of the hitchhikers, this sea star can be used for feeding of these shrimps. Therefore, it seems to be relatively okay for keepers and traders to transport also marine hitchhikers. There is very low potential for biological invasion. But in case of some aquarium which is placed on the bank of sea, So there is also some risk. When the aquarium is broken, damaged, and so on, the animal can escape in the marine environment. Like it was done in the North America in case of lionfish. Lionfish escaped after some hurricane from public aquarium, and currently it is very successful invader in Atlantic Ocean with huge negative consequences. Many coral invertebrates and so on were negatively impacted by this fish. So it is also our responsibility to prevent some introductions like the lionfish in Atlantic Ocean. Next one. About the current status. So ornamental aquaculture is very popular in Indonesia. Next. Indonesia is one of the leaders in ornamental aquaculture in general. Next. And there are also some negative consequences. Some indigenous and mostly endemic aquatic species are in risk by this aquaculture sector. Next. And non-indigenous species, non-native species, the invasive species can spread over Indonesian territory in many cases. Next. And also the pathogen of crayfish plague is present. So there are highlights of this presentation for your information. And now, next, I would like to, yeah, these are positive and also some negative. And now I would like to say something about some suggestions what to do. What is important? Important is monitoring of indigenous native species. Also monitoring of non-native species is important, and also the pathogens. In case of crayfish plague, we would like to test the sensitivity of native Indonesian species to this pathogen, because this is very important for not only for wildlife, but also for aquaculture. And if we know which species is high-risk species, we can try to communicate about some possible ban of this species. But as I said before, in case of palmas, not just the ban without education of the general public and all stakeholders. We have to find some smart solution. So the ban, is it enough or not? We have to respect the local people motivation. This is very important. I guess that many researchers, some foreigners would like to ban some activities only. This is not the correct way how to improve the situation. Respect to the motivation of local people is very important. And therefore, we have to find some smart solution. How to prepare the win-win situation, not only for wildlife, but also for people. If we will be well educated in this issue and will compare some experiences from abroad, like from Europe and so on, we can prepare some smart solutions which can be accepted by Indonesian communities, not as some restriction, but as good idea how to improve the situation, how to follow the suggestion, what to do and what not to do, and it can be profitable for both, for the nature, also for people. Next. Yeah, so culture of low risk taxa is very important. We are able to evaluate the invasion potential of selected species. We can prepare the climate matching analysis and so on. And we can say which species are not so risky for Indonesia when escaped to the wild. This is very important. And for the education of the general public, including children, is also very important. So, first step, spread our words and stay in touch. I would like to communicate with Ute in this regard. I'm open for communication. If you would like to contact me or Bu Ernik and the team here, so I guess that we can prepare some study, some projects and so on. This can be very important. Next. here I am in 1981 when I was a boy. So in this time I had a poor knowledge about Indonesia. It was some enigmatic tropical country for me. Next. Full of coconuts and full of some so interesting animals like tigers and so on. Next one. So it was mysterious and far, far away from Europe, and I had no idea how to visit Indonesia in future and what to do. But currently, the situation is totally different. From 2015, we started the cooperation. In 2015, I met Professor Jon Wittner for the first time from IPB, and first look on some interesting data from Indonesia and the wildlife in Indonesia were done. Next. The cooperation currently included 8 and maybe more Indonesian universities, IPB at first and UT as well, and some others like Unsud and others. You can see the list of logos are also in touch. I'm very satisfied with this, and I'm also very happy that one new next was included, and it's Hasanuddin University from Sulawesi, and from UT we will go there to prepare the MOU also with this university, and together I'm so happy to say that we are successful in some research activities and in our publication activity, which is very important for not only for me, I hope that also for Indonesian counterparts. We established also one research group in 2019. It is called the Indonesian Crayfish Research Group, and it is covered by IPB. And currently, it will be included in one IPB working group. It is called the Indonesian Center on for Research on Bioinnovations, with Professor Jon Wittner and Dr. Akmal here. And it is supported by Pa Ernan as vice rector from IPB. So I'm switching my research not to be foreigner, but I will also obtain some Indonesian affiliation, I hope, and therefore we can work as Indonesian team, not as foreigner here. I'm very satisfied with this opportunity. Next one. We found also some gaps in Indonesian legislative framework, some ideas of species which are focused by politicians and decision makers to be regulated or restricted and so on. So also we are in touch with next. With some here is the logo of the new working group at IPB. And next, we are in touch also with some senators and also with the Queen of Jogja, and we communicate widely about some possible improvement of specific legislative acts and laws and so on. This is a picture from my university, from the Czech University of Life Sciences in Prague. And I'm very happy that we can also communicate not only with academics, but also with decision makers, because this can be very important to overlap our findings to the practice. And because who cares about scientific papers? Usually just scientists. But we would like to start some improvement of anything. So we have to communicate also with politics. It is important. Next. Here is Daisy Bobor from the Zoological Museum in Bogor. Very important person for me, so friendly, and she's well educated in crustaceans in general. She's a curator or past curator of the collection in Zoological Museum in Bogor, and I'm happy to say that we are in friendly touch and in the cooperation as well. Next. Also, Bu Kensi, who is the former ambassador of Indonesia in Prague. This is picture from the embassy in the Prague, and we are in touch as well, and supported our activities and student sharing and so on. So we are in touch also with the embassy. Next. This is Pa Ernan from IPB, the vice rector, who also visited my university, and we discussed about many topics, also about the new working group, which will be launched soon in a few days. So this is also very promising for future cooperation with IPB and also, of course, with UT, because we are in touch. Next. And we focus also on pupils, not only on researchers. This is one example from elementary school close to Payakumbuh in West Sumatra. A few days before, we were in touch with kids there. It was so friendly contact. And we also prepared, together with my wife, who is the Ph.D. student of one Czech university, and she is a teacher and focused on education of pupils. So we prepared together one questionnaire survey, which is a part of an international project, how to evaluate the relationship between teacher and pupils and the impact on environmental education. Indonesia was invited to join this project, and currently we have about 40 countries involved and some thousands of respondents respond. So we are happy to prepare this project. It is currently running in Indonesia. So this was a perfect contact with pupils. All of them were so friendly, and it was nice. It is important to communicate also with children, because in long-term perspective, from these children, new politics, new traders, or new stakeholders will grow up, and they will modify their environment. So when we can start with the education of pupils, it can be very beneficial for future, for sure. Next. And also, I'm a member and Genta as well of one NGO. It is called the Sulawesi Keepers. The head is Markéta Relková, one Czech lady, which is a curator of a zoological garden in Ostrava city in the Czech Republic. She's also a well-experienced ornamental fish keeper, and because the biota of Sulawesi is very popular for ornamental fish keeping, we focused on this biota and some programs focused on support of Sulawesian shrimps, snails, and fish. Next one. We focus on endemic fauna and also on some invasive species, which unfortunately are present in Sulawesi in huge quantities. Next. Many endemics are traded as ornamentals, and many of them are in risk. The website, you can see the link here, is focused also on highlighting some issues, not only in English, but also in German, Czech, and Dutch, and also in Bahasa Indonesia. I guess that this is important for, or it can be important for communication with Indonesian people to ascertain the heritage of Sulawesi, why it is so valuable, and where are the risks. Next. Yeah, Sulawesi is here. Next. This is the example of freshwater biota, which is so variable. There are many of very attractive species for ornamental keeping. Unfortunately, many of them are endemics also of very restricted area, and therefore can be easily in risk of extinction. Currently, also some of them are extinct in wild, unfortunately. Next. A majority of these species are found in Lake Poso and in the Malili Lake system. as you can see on these examples. Next. And it is not only about these two lake systems, but also other freshwater bodies can be very important in this regard. But in many cases, they are not well surveyed. Next. And yeah, so there are also some species which are unknown for science. They are formally undescribed and can be also in risk, not only the ornamental species, but the whole ecosystem. Next. And yeah, so invasive species are there. This is the worst of them, flowerhorn cichlid. Flowerhorn cichlid is so successful invader, the predator of tiny invertebrates, which can reproduce quickly in huge quantities. And unfortunately, it is present in many Slovakian lakes. Next. Also, the crayfish was found there. Heras quadricardinatus was found in some lakes in Sulawesi. And this crayfish can be also so risky for some tiny shrimps and snails. 2 videos will follow. This is from Lake Tovuti. You can see many pelagic shrimps in Lake Tovuti. Lake Tovuti seems to be healthy, and these shrimps are in huge quantities there and do not afraid about some predator tools and so on. So this is good example of healthy biota. Even if some negative species are there, they are not in huge quantities. These shrimps seems to be. But when the invasive species will increase, so these can be easily captured by predators for sure. All of them funny. Okay, but the next example is nice. This is Paratelphusa panterina, one endemic of Lake Patoka, very popular as ornamental animal. Unfortunately, we are not able to reproduce this crab in the captivity. So it is just captured in the field. And you can see many invasive cichlids around. The crab is hiding, but unfortunately negatively impacted by invasive fish. This video is from the previous year, so it is the current situation. You can see that the numbers of invasive fish is so high, the density. In many cases of lakes in Sulawesi, the invaders are higher in abundance than native fish. The crab is hiding below the stone, but not for long time. But now switch your attention on the negative impact. The end of the graph. You can see that it is not easy to survive when you are some tiny crab like this one in the lake full of invasive cyclids. So what a pity that this crab, which is so popular and we can say iconic for Lake Matano and Sulawesi in whole in the ornamental trade, is in huge risk. And I guess that without any improvement of the management in the lake and maybe some culture in captivity, the species will be lost, because we have some individuals in captivity as ornamentals, but because these are not in the reproduction, so it is bad news for wild population, because we take some big individuals from the population and transport them abroad, and the population in the lake is under the pressure from invasive cichlids. So the population trend will decline rapidly. So the some project maybe something like this focused on this lake and conservation of this crab, and not only one species, of course, is very important. When not, the richness, biodiversity richness of this lake and whole Sulawesi will decline quickly. Next. Not again. Next. Yeah. So therefore, we are also in touch with some foreigners, like this group of ornamental fish keepers focus on freshwater invertebrates in Germany. I was there on some workshop to present the idea of Sulawesi keepers and to present the biodiversity richness of Sulawesi Island, and to spread the words, because these keepers can be very important in our effort how to connect people which are focused on keeping and culture of these animals in the captivity. And not only Indonesian keepers, but abroad. We can, over the planet, we can connect together and start some breeding programs, something like this, focus on these species. The idea was so friendly accepted by these German keepers, and I hope that we will continue with other foreigners, also with Indonesian people, of course. If there is any possibility how to help the species with, I don't know, establishment of some new farms or something like this can be very helpful, and I guess also profitable for Indonesian people. So this is also smart solution. Next one. Yeah, here are partners of the Sulawesi keepers. You can see that, and that many institutions and companies and groups are focused on the issue. When we can communicate in the appropriate way with some groups of focused people, so we can obtain the support and we can start some improvement and so on. And so this is very important. Not only communication with Indonesian people, but also with international auditorium. Next one. So the conclusion, yeah, what we need the smart actions. As I told before, this is the crucial point. Not to say just only stop to do something, but how to manage the issue to be acceptable for local communities, acceptable for Indonesian policymakers and government and so on, and also beneficial for wildlife. There are some ways how to do it. So this is our mission, how to find the solution, how to present our ideas, and how to prepare some win-win solution. Next one. Yeah, not only short-term perspective, but also long-term perspective is very important. And therefore the focus on pupils, on elementary schools, secondary schools, and so on is very important. Next one. And this is the end of my speech. I was honored to be invited, and I guess that we can find many ways how to continue in the cooperation and or how to talk about and discuss about the topic with, I hope, the better future for Indonesian biodiversity richness. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jiří, for your very interesting and comprehensive presentation. We learned so much today from this lecturer. We will now proceed with a question and answer session. If you have any question, please raise your hand and our volunteer will provide you with a microphone. And later on, we will also read the question from the Zoom. I think there are a lot of people interested with this topic, so I have so many questions in the Zoom. But we will give opportunity here. Padiki? Can you give the microphone?
Thank you, Dr. Jiří, for your presentation. It is clear and you can give example and explanation, which are very important in every presentation. My question is that at first, I think that captive breeding, how to make for the ornamental fish can reproduce in captivity is important. But from your explanation that you said that most ornamental fish which are lucrative, which are expensive, cannot reproduce in captivity. So that makes those fishes are very expensive, very lucrative. People want to find it and even smuggle the endangered species. If we can, although we can do captive breeding, I believe the price will be lower based on law of supply and demand. If the supply is higher and people will not find it because it is everywhere. So the answer will be sustainable capture from the wild. Is that possible? That's my first question, and the second question will be later based on your answer. And I give opportunity for other people. But is it possible to do the captive, sustainable captive breeding for endemic species, for indigenous species? Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much for this question.
I'm Diki from Department of Biology.
So thank you very much for this question. That's true. If some endemic species which are currently expensive will be produced in captivity, the price will decline. And this is very important because when the price will decline, so the capture from the field will be not profitable at all. So by some new methodology which can be beneficial for farmers and producers and will establish the culture of specific species. So in future, the supply of the species on the market will be done only from the culture, not from the capture in the field. This is very important, and we have many examples from past times of some iconic species from South America, for example, like neon tetra, which was so expensive and captured in the field and transported abroad. But currently, there is no capture in the field. All neon tetras are produced only in captivity, and the price was much lower. It is profitable for farmers or for producers, but not for field collectors. This is very important. Also in case of endemic species, not only of some widespread one. And moreover, in case of endemic species of very restricted areas, the culture is very important because not only in relationship to the price, because the wild population can be lost in future or dramatically negatively impacted. So the culture can help to survive the species for future and maybe also to be reintroduced to the native range in future. Yep. And the second question?
Do you want to? No, it's enough, Pak Diki. Okay, okay. Thank you, Pak Diki from Biological Study Program. Do you have any question? Okay. Yes. Silakan Ibu Dekan.
Actually, there are many ornamental crayfish of fresh water. What I want to ask to you is, what my question is there any collection? There are many ornamental, and where they stored? And is it a center for the collection of the ornamental freshwater?
Yeah,
Thank
thank you very much. The type material is in Zoology Museum in Bogor, but not all of them, because some species were discovered by Dutch naturalists in the past, and therefore the type material was transported to the Netherlands, and currently it is deposited in the museum in Leiden, in the Naturalis Center. So there are two main collections in Bogor and in Leiden, but currently we have some new species, year by year, new species of ornamental, not ornamental, but of freshwater crayfish are discovered in Papua. So I hope that for future, most of them will be, or all of them will be in Bogor. So relatively okay for Indonesian researchers how to visit the collection and compare. And in case of invasive species or non-native species for Indonesia, we can also maybe prepare some material for comparison and for use for Indonesian researchers for future. There can be some collection with species which are not recorded currently in Indonesia, but can be expected for future. I don't know if as some preserved material or some maybe textbook or something like this can be important, I guess. I saw your facility for production of books here, so it can be perfect for this purpose, I guess. Maybe we can prepare some material for this issue for future.
Okay, so there are many potential to propose as a new species, and also our students have potential to study. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Is there any question in this meeting room? If no, maybe we will proceed to the question in Zoom meeting. There will be, we will show you the question with this way. Okay. Okay, the first question is from, yes, Pak Diki, you want to ask some more questions? Okay, we will.
Thank you.
Give
A short question. In contrast to the ornamental fish that we capture from the wild, or we do that in captivity, I noticed that some fishes, some species of fishes are not, they are bred by people for hundreds of years, like the goldfish and the koi fish. We cannot find those fish in the wild. This is or some of the genetically engineered fishes that can glow in dark like that. So those ornamental fish, this artificial, I call them artificial ornamental fish, can be an alternative from the endangered species. But this is very unique, and it is innovated only in some countries, some developed countries with many resources of genetic method. So what do you suggest to make an artificial based on the color or the structure or whatever, so we can make an artificial fish that can be alternative from the endangered species. We in Indonesia have so many endangered species, but if we have alternative, we can reduce the destruction of the wild fish. Thank you.
Thank you, Padiki. So yes, this is a good question. Goldfish is not in the wild form because it is pretty colored, and also there are some modifications of body shape and length of fins and so on. It is not genetically modified. It is just selected. So this can be okay for the first sight because it can be easily detected by predators and not well swimming and so on. Yeah, it can be smart solution. But we have to be sure that there are no related risks like some pathogen spreading or something like this. It is hard to say. Generally, it is okay to use fishes like goldfish and koi and so on, and to be safe. Some focused survey has to be done as first as a pilot study. That okay, so goldfish is maybe better than some endangered endemics to be subjected by ornamental aquaculture. But what will follow when the fish will escape in the wild, it is just our estimation. We can prepare some prediction model and something like this, but just an estimation. So it is hard to answer. The question is clear, but the answer is not so easy, and it depends on some ongoing research activities. But yeah, generally this can be a smart solution.
Okay, thank you. We will now. Okay, this is the first question from Anggelia Lailatul Jannah. In crayfish cultivation for consumption, how to prevent virus infection and what factors support this preventive action? For example, in 2021, cases of white spot syndrome virus infection in red claw crayfish and red swamp crayfish were imported to Korea. Samples were found at the fish market. Is the virus dangerous if consumed?
So thank you very much for this question. It's nice to see that the auditory is well educated in the topic, because the current situation about viruses in ornamental crayfish is under how to say, some scientists focused on the topic currently, and we have a poor knowledge about some spectra of viruses related to freshwater crayfish. I'm a member of the team who is focused on the topic, and currently we have some new data on many viruses which are related to freshwater crayfish, and these are exported also related to ornamental crayfish. There are the white spot syndrome virus is very dangerous, but I have no idea how to prevent the spread. The research is just preliminary, and we are at the starting point, so hard to say how to do it. But this is very important topic and issue for future research activities. If the meal of this crayfish is dangerous if consumed by humans, I have no knowledge about this. I guess that the risk is for other decapod crustaceans, not for humans. But who knows? We are at the starting point in this regard. So thank you very much for this question. Maybe next year the paper will be published, and we will ascertain some news in this regard.
Thank you for the answer. So this will be a interesting future research topic, Dr. Jiří. Okay, maybe we'll go to the next question. Okay, this is from Mr. Agus Arifin Santosa. He is currently the student from MMP and also the employee of Ministry of Fisheries and Marine in Indonesia. We have conducted survey in several reservoirs in Java, and most of them have introduced cylid fish such as Amphilophus citrinellus. Have there been any case studies of successful handling for the eradication of this these species, which generally have the potential to be invasive in waters? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. Yeah, that's true that this cyclid, not only this species, are frequently found in many water bodies, not only in Java. But to be honest, there is no one feasible and simple solution how to eradicate the fish. In some cases, you can try to use some toxins or something like this, but be very carefully, because all biota in the habitat, in the environment, will be negatively impacted. So I cannot recommend this way without very careful management and preparation of this management. Therefore, the focus on prevention of introduction of new species is very important. When the species is in the locality present and established, so it is mission impossible in many cases to eradicate them completely. So therefore, the modeling like climate matching analysis is very important, and I highly recommend to Indonesian researchers to be trained in this method, and to start analysis of animal and plant species as well, because in this regard we can identify high risk species and we can try to stop the introduction before the introduction exists. After, so it is a hard job, and I'm afraid that there is no way currently how to eradicate all Amphilopus citrinellus in Java. So sorry for that.
Okay, thank you for the answer. So we focus on prevention because if it's already spread, then it's impossible to. Okay, we go to the next question. This one is from Mr. Anto. Can we grow shrimp in shrimp culture like Macrobrachium sp, and we use its waste for hydroponic in aquaponic system? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert in aquaponic and hydroponic systems, but generally, for sure, when you culture some shrimps like Macrobrachium in some system without no negative inputs like some medicinals and some chemicals and so on, why not? The waste can be used for growing of some plants and so on. But in case of aquaponic system, I'm afraid that it is not feasible to use just the waste from Macrobrachium shrimp. You need some more nutrients, I guess. But honestly, I'm not expert in this field.
Thank you. Oh, do we have more questions from the Zoom? No? Okay. Oh, this is very long question. Okay. From Mr. Andi in UT Surakarta, over the last 30 years, Indonesia has become a hotspot for global marine aquarium fish collection and trade. Unfortunately, the widespread use of destructive fishing technique continues and has caused a serious decline in the number and quality of reef habitats, and has also reduced the diversity of fish that are targeted for the marine aquarium trade. But unlike freshwater fish, almost 90% of all marine aquarium organisms for trade still come from wild collection. My question is, how can sustainable and ethical practice be promoted within the ornamental aquaculture sector in Indonesia using best practice, such as for, okay, this is maybe the example. So maybe the question is, how can sustainable and ethical practice be promoted within the ornamental aquaculture sector in Indonesia?
So thank you very much for this. It's not a question, it's commentary, I guess. And that's true. Strongly agree. The marine trade can be so risky for marine biota, not only for fish but also for invertebrates. That's true. Most of them are still captured in the field, and by some destructive practices, the destructive methods, and it is the mortality is very high. Therefore, we need some improvement of the management, and as you you noted here, some quota or some labels can be very helpful in this regard. On the other hand, the trade with marine ornamentals is very important for some local communities. And I guess that without the profit from this trade, these people will be in trouble. So we have to support them by another way, how to show them that it is also important to protect the environment. But without the support from government, I guess, it is science fiction. So not only label and restriction is enough, but also communication with local people and support to them is important. Because without that, they will catch more and more animals intensively in ongoing years, and the coral reefs will be destroyed, I guess, and the people will be in troubles also. So we can prevent this situation, and we can help them in advance, and therefore also help the marine biota to survive. Thank you very much for this question and this very important commentary.
So maybe I highlight from your previous presentation. So spread the words not only to scientists but also decision maker and also young generation. Okay. Do we have any question? Okay, Bu Endang.
Thank you, Mr. Jiří. I'd like to ask question about hitchhikers you mentioned about. One of them is Pontidaria crassipes, as we call it, eceng gondok. And I tried to search in Google and I found that this is not hitchhiker because eceng gondok or Pontidaria crassipes can be used for water treatment, water waste treatment, especially dairy wastewater, because this can be used to remove other toxin and such as cyanide, and which is environmentally beneficial in areas that have endured in gold mining operation. So maybe many hitchhikers is for me, I'm not very well informed in you mentioned about ornamental ornamental. So this is the hitchhikers. Maybe this is not hitchhikers because we cannot understand what their use is. So we can use them, and this is not become hitchhiker anymore. What you opinion about that? Thank you.
So it is about the current situation in water management in the whole Indonesia, right? So yeah, there are some heavy polluted streams and lakes and so on, which are not not able for survival of the biota there, and it can be also problematic for usage by local people for anything.
Bu Endang mentioned about one species that can use in water treatment. Oh, wait, slower, Ibu Endang, slower, and please use your mic. Okay, what is that?
Pontidaria crassipes or eceng gondok can be used
water treatment
to environment endured in good mining operation. So if you mining land, it's very difficult to menghidupkan, menumbuhkan, to cultivate plants. So we can use eceng gondok that fast can be used to overcome everything that mining operation. So, can you understand? I'm so sorry.
Eceng gondok, the what is called in English? Mungkin
yeah. Got it. Thank you. Yes, this aquatic plant can be used for water treatment for sure. But there is a risk that the plant will be introduced in surrounding in some water bodies. But to be honest, it is done in Indonesia. Ehornea crassipes, or the current name is Pontaderia crassipes, I guess. So it is widespread. It can be harvested for, I don't know, the eradication is maybe better than or feasible in comparison with animals. And yeah, if you will use this plant just for water treatment activity, it is a good idea how to use the plant. Why not? But in the wild, this plant can be very dangerous, very risky for the whole ecosystem, not only for plants but also for animals. So in the water treatment, it is okay. In the wild, it's not fine.
Thank you for your answer. Ibu Enang, you have any question? Okay. Do we have, okay, Ibu Ernik?
Thank you. Jiří, we know the spread of invasive species very high in Java Island. For example, Serax quadricarinatus. Yes. You can explain again. I don't catch it yet. What the effective strategies for controlling and monitoring spread of invasive species? Did we have some research for this? For developing strategies for controlling and monitoring the invasive species?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. If the crayfish is present at the locality, it is not easy to eradicate it. So we can try to catch them manually or by trapping or by anglers and so on. But in most cases, these methods are so selective to adults, and the young generation will survive in the locality, and we can just mitigate the population, not fully eradicate in many cases. Helpful can be some predatory fish, but on the other hand, there are also some native invertebrates usually in the locality, and the introduction of some new predator can be very risky for them. The Charax quadricarinatus will be great, but what to do after, because the new predator is there. So there is no some feasible way how to eradicate them successfully, all of them from the locality. Based on my experience from the Czech Republic or from Europe, the biodiversity richness of invertebrates is not so high in comparison with Indonesia, of course. So we can try to prepare some more destructive way how to eradicate some invasive crayfish, but we failed. There is no feasible way, no effective way how to do it. Again, the most important is some prevention. If we will stop the spreading by humans, so it can be effective. Okay, some localities are impacted, but some not. So our mission is at first protect the non-invaded islands. Maybe, who knows, that there are some islands. There's 17,000 islands in Indonesia, so I guess that not all of them are invaded by this crayfish. So at first to protect these islands, and after that we can try to focus on mitigation, eradication, and so on in the localities where the crayfish is present. Yeah.
So once again, the answer is to prevent first or spread. Okay. Okay, thank you. Do we have any question? Yes. Please introduce your name.
It's morning. Test. Hello, sir. My name is Tiara. This is my first years in biology study. Maybe it's a little bit out of topic, but I have curiosity about this. Can I know, on your perspective, how consultative are Czech towards seafood like fish or lobster or crab? Because in Indonesia, our ministry in period 2014 and 2019 is promote us to eat fish. Thank you.
The government promote us to eat more seafood. So how about in Czech Republic? That is your question?
Yeah. So simply we have no seas in the Czech Republic, and therefore marine fish and marine crabs and lobsters and so are very expensive in my country. So it is like luxury food for us, and the main focus of Czech people on aquatic biota is on freshwater fishes. Also, crayfish are not so popular for human consumption in my country. The more than 95% of aquatic biota which is consumed by people is common carp, Cyprinus carpio. This is the main species which is used in aquaculture and for consumption by Czech people. Yep. Totally different to Indonesia.
Thank you, sir.
So you already eat seafood here, Dr. Jiří?
Yeah, we have the
yes.
Yeah. So I like shrimps and so on so much. Of course.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more question? Is from the Zoom also no question? Okay, maybe I will highlight some presentation from Dr. Jiří. Dr. Jiří mentioned about the ornamental aquaculture in Indonesia. It's transport all over countries and dominate in Jakarta, Yogyakarta, Surabaya, and not only marine but also freshwater. But for marine, it's capture, and for freshwater, ornamental is usually culture. And Dr. Jiří also mentioned some risks in ornamental aquaculture about invasive species, and the stream is not in good condition in Indonesia, and also there are some invasive species. And Dr. Jiří also present about indigenous crayfish species in Indonesia, and he also mentioned about the exploitation of crayfish, and later on he mentioned also about the ikan hias in Indonesia and the biodiversity conservation paradox. In some country it's endangered and almost extinct, but in Indonesia the species is invasive. And maybe the latest one I want to highlight is please spread the word, so not only the scientists know about this but also the decision maker, like he showed us before. He showed us the picture of Ratu Hemas visit as a legislative from Indonesia, and also visit to elementary school in Payakumbuh. Yeah, so the young generation also know about it. Okay. Our gratitude goes to Dr. Jiří Patoka, Ph.D. for sharing his invaluable insight about ornamental aquaculture in Indonesia, and your expertise has undoubtedly broadened our understanding for this topic today. And once again, I want to thank you, Dr. Jiří, and for all participants here and also in Zoom meeting. And back to you, Safira.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Erika and Mr. Jiří. Let us give us big applause to our speakers and moderator. Thank you. Yeah, we will give you a certificate and a souvenir, so you have to remain in the front of this room. Okay, now moving through the next session, I would like to ask Dr. Nurma, as the Dean of Faculty of Science and Technology, to give a digital certificate and souvenir as a token of appreciation to our speaker, Engineer Jiří Patoka, Ph.D., DIS. Please, Dr. Nurma, if you may. Mr. Jiří?
This is certificate certificate of appreciation for Jiří for your sharing and your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, and also, if you may, you come to the front, please. We gonna give you a souvenir and take a picture for a while. Yeah, thank you. This is a souvenir from Universitas Terbuka. Freeze for a while. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The other one, okay? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the other one. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, let us give a big applause. Okay, yeah. And then before we close the visiting lecture, I would like to invite all the participants in this room come to the front to take a picture, and also to all participants that joining us using media to open the video cam, showing the best face of us. Please, all participants in here come to the front to take a picture with Mr. Jiří and also Mrs. Okay. For those participants that using a masker, please put it down for a while. Okay, for all the participants joining us using Zoom media, please open the video cam and showing your best face. Okay. I guess. Okay, nggak? Is it okay to take a picture now? I guess we should start with the phone first. So look at the phone first. Say cheese. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, cheese. The other one. Oh, we can use a Universitas Terbuka symbol with using our hands, U shape with the right hands and left hands using like this. Yes. Sorry. It's okay, doctor. Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Another one. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Also, the participant. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we finally arrived at the last agenda of this sitting lecture. Before we end this event, I will remind you to fill the attendance and feedback form in the chat box, and we will give a certificate for participants will be delivered within 2 weeks of this lecture. On behalf of the Faculty of Science and Technology Universitas Terbuka, we also would like to thanks to our speaker, Dodge Engineer Jiří Patoka, Ph.D. DIS, for taking some of his time and sharing such an insightful knowledge. Thank you, sir. And also for all participants, thank you. And we apologize for any unintentional mistakes. We hope you enjoy the knowledge sharing session, and we would hope to see you again in the next visiting lecture. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.